Howdy y'all, and welcome to Chill With Clayton. We're so excited that y'all are here today. Hope y'all have been enjoying the show, and just enjoying the show and just keeping up with it. As you all know, we do have our email address, chillwithclayton@gmail.com. You can come on to the show, or you can ask us a Q&A question, or whatever. I mean, hey, we just love to have a little bit of, participation in our episode, and we know that y'all are out there, and we want to make sure that y'all participate in these episodes. I'm not being forceful, it's just a nice, hey, please. Okay. But, to be serious here, by the way, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, or like, of course. And then if anyone is listening on our Spotify or Apple Podcasts, remember to give us a like and a follow on those episodes. And hey, enjoy the episode if you're in your car or wherever, because, well, you're listening to the audio version, so it's a lot of fun. But we also do have a Chill With Clayton Instagram page where I post a daily verse every day with a cool corresponding song. Like today's was I Saw the Light by Hank Williams Jr. Or Hank Williams, actually. But that's because we were talking about how God's the light of our lives. So pretty cool. Go check that out on our Instagram page. And also, we will now finally get into today's episode where I'm going to reveal my favorite Bible stories and why. Let's get on with the episode, y'all. Well, folks, as I did say in the intro, I'm happy to be revealing today my favorite Bible stories and why. We'll first start off with one of my favorite Bible stories as a kid. That was the story of David and Goliath. Now, of course, that is a lot of people's favorite story, but there's just something that connected it with me as a young little boy who was just kind of going through his beginner's Bible. By the way, that's a picture book of the Bible, but it's for little kids, of course. But I was kind of reading through it, and I kind of saw David and Goliath, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool story about a shepherd boy who gets to sling a rock at a giant Philistine named Goliath. That's pretty cool. But as a little boy, I really didn't know what the impact of that would be on my life, because as a guy who is going to be pursuing ministry at Liberty University Online right now, I kind of think of the little guys, the little gals, or the little boys. Because, there's a Bible verse that says, don't let them look down upon you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, and in purity. So kids can even influence adults, and it's pretty cool that, David was brave enough to go and say, hey, King Saul, I got this. But Saul's like, no. Take some of my armor. And it ends up not fitting David because, Saul's an adult and David's a kid. So he ain't gonna fit into that armor. But David's like, nah, I got this. Just trust me on this. Me and God got this handled. Saul and his brothers, on the other hand, by the way, his brothers were the one who actually wanted David to come because, they were hungry and then they needed somebody to bring them some food, bring them some more supplies. But as you all know, David was a shepherd, and he was tending with the sheep, the family sheep. But as I was saying about David getting ready to go against Goliath, he trusted God enough, going hey, even though this guy is a giant Philistine, I know God's got my back. And as a little guy, I was like, man, there's a lot of big stuff going on in my life. School's big. There was I even dealt with bullies sometimes. And whenever I felt to that, I go, okay, yeah, they might be bigger than me, but God is bigger than them. And that's what David knew about God in those moments. He knew he would protect him. He knew he'd keep him safe. And he had faith that he would be able to defeat this Philistine. And with one sling of the rock, there you go. Another one of my favorite stories was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now this comes from Daniel chapter 3, by the way. By the way, I forgot to mention that David and Goliath comes from 1 Samuel 17, if anyone didn't know. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from Daniel 3 is about these three boys. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or VeggieTales. Their version is known as Rack, Shack, and Benny, which is a very good episode of VeggieTales. By the way, go check out my top 10 favorite VeggieTales episodes while you're at it. I know, it's a cheap plug, but oh well. But as I was saying, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are about these three kids that come into the palace under King Nebuchadnezzar, I believe is his name? Yeah, King Nebuchadnezzar. And now Nebuchadnezzar really likes these boys. I mean, they're kind of like, they're top of the guys, and they're like, hey, like, these kids got something. But one of the guys goes like, well, yeah, because we learned it that God would always protect us if we followed his rule. Now, unfortunately, King Nebuchadnezzar didn't quite understand the thing about God and how he's sovereign and he's his leader. So King Nebuchadnezzar decides to test this by, he gets his own statue. And he puts it out in front of the palace and he goes, okay, if no one will worship me, they will be thrown into the fiery furnace. Now, the other kids who were alongside Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they fell and bowed to this Nebuchadnezzar's golden statue. On the other hand, Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego did nothing about this, which made Nebuchadnezzar very angry at the time, and he threw them into the fiery furnace. But my favorite part, though, of this story is when they get thrown in the furnace, but Nebuchadnezzar looks like he sees a fourth guy. Now, if you all remember, he only threw 3 guys in the furnace, but there was somehow a fourth guy. And Nebuchadnezzar's like, wait, what's going on here? Like, what's going on? And then he checks on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and says, hey, come on out, before you, get flamed. But when Nebuchadnezzar sees them, there's not even a spark of flame anywhere. They seem like they're fine. Not charred faces or anything. They just seem like nothing happened. And then at that moment, Nebuchadnezzar goes, okay, this guy, Jesus or God is for real. And he gave his life to him, which is so cool. But in those moments, I remembered, like, hey, God's with me in those times of scaredness or awkwardness or anxious. Sorry, I bit my tongue there. Or anxiousness. He's in those moments with us. And I think it's really awesome that he's there. Moving on to our third story, that is Jesus calms the storm. Now, Jesus calming the storm, of course, is very, Jesus calming the storm. A lot of the disciples are worried because there's like heavy waters, there's stormy waters, there's rowdy waters, but Jesus goes, no, let me calm. Hey, clouds, storm, calm down. Like, calm down. And then the storm ceases. Which was one of my favorite stories at the time, as well as a kid, because I am very afraid of thunderstorms, especially if it has the big bad storms, if you know what I'm talking about, severe. I mean, I've kind of gotten better recently, but like if it's like monster, big time hail, maybe a tornado and some pretty big bad winds, like I'm kind of honestly very scared. Like I'm still kind of honestly getting scared myself. And it's hard to admit that because you're like, man, I'm a 22-year-old kid, 22-year-old young man, I'm still afraid of thunderstorms. I know, like all the southern guys should be now going like, sipping their coffee outside and going, hey, let me go look at that nader real quick. But that ain't me. I'm not that kind of guy. And that's not my kind of forte. Moving on to my next story, that is Paul on the road to Damascus. Now, of course, Paul is one of my favorite people to study because his story is just so amazing. As Paul was blinded by God because, well, he was killing Christians. He was crucifying Christians. But at the time, God sent somebody to go help mentor Paul. And he ended up actually giving his life to Christ. Paul ended up giving his life to Christ. He actually got his sight back again. But during that, he was able to share the gospel with so many people and have all of these big movements. Now, I guess he did have to pay the price a few times, like going to prison or himself getting ridiculed because he's preaching the gospel. But when I looked at the story of Paul, I was like, hey, like, even though there might be some broken people in the world, like, hey, like, they could still have a story too. And if, like, God picked, like, a criminal to do his work, so what can he do with, like, a 16-year-old kid at the time from Wiley, Texas? And I kind of believed in myself and go, like, hey, like, God can do something with me, and, like, now I just want to live out his plan, and that's what I want to do for my life. And then finally, one of my favorite Bible characters is Timothy. Now, Timothy was actually he was being mentored by Paul. Now, Timothy, of course, is like, I think at the time he was like 17, maybe 16, maybe 15 years old at the time. But he had Paul as his mentor, and he taught him a lot of different stuff. He taught him a lot of different stuff at the time, and he was like really cool about it. And their stories come from Acts chapter 16. He also had 2 books. Timothy also wrote 2 books. Some of the verses even come from 2 Timothy 3:14 through 17 and 2 Timothy 1 through 2, which is actually one of my favorite verses about being a man of God. And that is just like one of my favorite things I love about Timothy and Paul. And like I think about that when I'm talking with my mentors at the church, and they're asking me like, hey, how's it going like right now? How's college going? Even though sometimes it can be kind of like, I'd like to get over with it, but God provided me so many mentors in my life, and I'm so forever grateful for that. And I kind of feel like Timothy was when Paul was asked, when he'd ask Paul for direction and questions, but of course Paul would direct him back to God. And I think it's just an amazing story. But here's a quick recap of my 5. Some of my favorite Bible stories are David and Goliath, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Jesus calming the storm, Paul on his road to Damascus, and Paul and Timothy. Now, let's move on to the Bible verse of the week. Now, let's move on to today's daily Bible verse. Today's daily Bible verse comes from Psalm 119:11. Here it is. I have hidden your word in my heart, that I may not sin against you. Now, why I keep these Bible stories around and other Bible verses around is that I know God's word. I know his plan in my life. I know what he wants for me. And so that I might not sin against him. Even though, yes, we are going to sin. We are always going to sin. I mean, unfortunately, it's human nature. It's how we were created. It was how we were created because of an unperfect world. Even though God created us to be perfect, fortunately due to sin, we're unperfect. Unlike God, who is perfect. And Jesus. But, like I was saying, you always want to keep Bible verses in your heart so you can remember those times like when you are dealing with sin or temptation or whatever. You can remember back to those Bible verses that connect with that and go, okay, this is wrong. Or whenever you're preaching somebody the gospel, here's what you need to know and here's the story of God. Like, that right there is why you remember the words in your heart. Now, I know some of us aren't Bible scholars and we don't know everything in this thing. Now, you might know a person that thinks like you think knows the Bible and like could spit out a Bible verse like anytime you think of. Like, I think about that with some of my mentors at church. But I know that they had to go through the same process that I did, and I think it's really cool that like there is a chance that you get to know a lot of good Bible verses, but that's only if you put the time to it. And let's go ahead and close on with the show. Well, folks, I hope you all enjoyed today's episode of Chill with Clayton. I'm so excited that y'all are still here and enjoying these episodes. Now remember, like I said, tell your friends and family about our show. We really want to spread the gospel, tell other people's testimonies, and we want to line up some guests. Now, I've been talking with some of my buddies, and they want to come on with the show, but here's the thing. We will kind of need some other stuff before we do get to those episodes, so just bear patience with us on that. So if there's a couple more solo episodes, that's why, but we are really motivated to go out and get some people and interview them and tell them about their testimonies. Like, that's what we want to do. And we're so excited to share with you also that. So just give us some patience. And hey, be praying for the show as well. I mean, I don't know what God wants to do with this show, but we know that we want to share His word and gospel so that it is complying with what His mission is for all of us. So folks, like I always say, keep Jesus first, God bless, don't mess with Texas, and adios, and yeehaw!